presentation of Jonas de Oliveira Lara Neira, correct?
Yes.
Diogo Sepe Alexio, Andrea Bijalbo, Enrique and Pedro Benedito Casagrande, with the paper Application of Multi-Criteria Analysis to Evaluate the Potential for the Occurrence of Cavities in Sierra do Granaderela, and presentation in 3D geological modeling software. The stage is yours, Jonas.
All right. Good afternoon to everyone. It's a pleasure to be here at this conference to present my work to you. So now I'm gonna share my screen, and you say that if it's all right to you. Second. I think it's not full screen now. All right, I'm going to on this one. Are you seeing it in full screen now?
Yeah, perfect.
All right. So my name is Jonas Laranjeira. I am a geologist and I work in a mining consulting company focused on developing works using geographic information systems and 3D geological modeling software. Today, I'll present a paper that was developed from the studies and researches carried out for my master thesis, made in the Department of Mining Engineering at the Federal University of Minas Gerais. The title, as you said, is Application of Multi-Criteria Analysis to Evaluate the Potential for Occurrence of Cavities in the Serra do Gandarela and presentation in a 3D geological modeling software. As an overview, what we're gonna see is that Serra do Gandarela is a geological and geomorphological site present in northeast of Quadrilátero Ferrífero in the state of Minas Gerais. That is a region which concentrates large amounts of speleological features and also mineral resources. The paper presents the application of multi-criteria techniques worked inside a GIS platform to produce a map for the occurrence of speleological features such as cavities and dolins in Serra do Gandarela. And as a result, it will be presented a geological model developed in the region made from the most recent geological mappings. And it will be possible to observe the adherence of the applied methodology as well. It will be possible.
Jonas, sorry. If you are go on with your presentation, we don't see you, or we see on the introduction.
Yeah, just because now I want to.
Okay. I think you are coming with the slides. Okay. Sorry.
All right. So this is just an overview to make you understand what we are going to talk about. So to the next slide, here we have a digital model elevation map from the region of Quadrilátero Ferrífero. That is a place of iron formations that have a lot of economical interests, and it also bears a large amount of geodiversities with highly interested hydrical formations and speleological features in the same place of the mineral resources. And then I present here a geological map that was simplified by a map developed by Samuendo in 2019. The main lithologies here that are of interest for this study are the Coal Formation rocks here in light blue, the Gandarella Formation that are composed by dolomites and limestones here in magenta. In brown, we have iron laterites that are called here Kanga deposits. And these three lithologies are highly uh, uh, very likely to the development of speleological features. And on the other hand, we have the yellow with the igneous rocks and the dark blue with metasedimentary rocks that are unlikely to the development of cavities. So here I present the a scheme that represents how cavities are formed, and they form from dissolutions and subdenses and collapses processes that form sinkholes, valleys, and caves. So the cavities are not only an object of environmental preservation here in Brazil, but also they should be looked from the eyes of geotechnical care, once they can represent some geological hazard when they are close to human activities, just like mining activities or human ascentments. And here in the Serra do Gandarela, I show that I highlighted here three major mining activities that are placed at the same place of the cavities studied, and here is represented the National Park of Serra do Gandarela that was created in order to preserve the environmental features once there are mining interests in the same place. So not to in order to keep some places safe from these activities, they created this national park, and we're gonna see how the map produced is gonna show the results in these areas. So the methodology went through a review and construction of cartographic database, the limits of study area selection, the choice of cartographic aspects to be considered, attribution of weights and scores
Ona has left the call, so we attend 1 minute more, and if he can return, I call the next presentation scheduled of Camilla Engler. Camila?
Yes.
Are you ready? We now, meanwhile, we attend ONAS. We continue. We start with your presentation. If you are ready.
Yes, let me just share the screen.
Okay. I introduce you, and meanwhile, I introduce the paper of Camila Engler, Carlos Marcelo Pai, Silvina Saavedra, Emanuel Juarez, and Duco Leonardo Rufiner, with the title Prediction of the Impact of the End of Year Festivities on the Local Epidemiology of COVID-19, using agent-based simulation with adding Markov models. Camila, if you are ready, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. As you hear, my name is Camila Engler, and I will be presenting the work Prediction of the Impact of End-of-Year Festivity on local epidemiology of COVID-19 using agent-based simulation with hidden Markov models. As everybody may know, in late 2019, a new coronavirus variant, SARS-CoV-2, was identified. Due to the rapid spread of the virus, a pandemic was declared in March 2020, and since then, more than 200 million cases and 4 million deaths have been reported. Various outbreaks of this disease in different regions of the world have been studied, and the epidemiological analysis has been useful to develop models, mainly mathematical, intended to track and predict the spread of the epidemics. In this context, the present work is conceived to provide an alternative that includes some realistic factors and predict the effects of various social and health policies. This pandemic has some specific characteristics that differentiate itself from others, such as a high basic reproduction number of up to 2.79, the seasonality, and the asymptomatic infections. Besides, age range, comorbidities, and other variables affect the probability of becoming infected, going to intensive care units, or dying. Furthermore, local climate, social behavior, and health habits have been demonstrated to affect the dynamics of the epidemics. Therefore, this work proposes a new approach more complex and realistic than the traditional mathematical model by considering the multiplicity of factors. An agent-based model is used to incorporate local information and specific characteristics for each area of study, namely social, cultural, geographical, climatological variables related to the dynamics of COVID-19. Moreover, the AVMs allow taking into account the intrinsic randomness of the system and monitoring the space-time characteristics in the simulation run, even though this kind of models is more computationally expensive and requires more data. One of the reasons why AVM become popular is because it can simulate and help analyze complex organization or self-organizing systems. These characteristics made them very versatile and have made them impactful in many areas, including epidemiology. It has been greatly favored by the ease with which this modeling strategy allows the integration of individual behavior into the frameworks that view health as the product of interaction of biological, social, and environmental factors. In this work, the proposed model is used to predict how social behaviors related to end of year festivity impact of the epidemiology of COVID-19. The newly developed model is called Asian-Based Local Model for COVID-19 Simulations, or ABC-SIMS for short. This allows modeling groups of people with COVID-19, either symptomatics or asymptomatics, together with those considered susceptible or cured. The model also considers the complexity of the pathology dynamics and the intrapersonal relationships within the populations, along with geographical and climatological information relevant to the pandemic. Additionally, it implements host transmission block based on a set of Markov models, hidden Markov models, which reflect the main aspect of agents' mobility and social activities. This work presents a case study allowing the evaluation of the dynamics for festive dates to make possible the prediction of the effects of gatherings and parties. Therefore, decision makers can implement relevant health and social policies based on the information. The model ABC-SIMS is implemented in Java and runs on computational simulation platform Repast. The general scheme of the model is presented in this figure, where different blocks and implementation levels are identified. The top level shows the model in its most abstract stage as a black box, indicating the initial conditions, inputs, and outputs. The intermediate levels in blue shows the two main blocks that make up the model. One block dedicated to the simulation of the spread of the virus within each host, and another dedicated to the transmission of the disease between hosts. Finally, at the lower level, in green, the different models are indicated with their own parameters. As an agent-based model, a fundamental part of the system is the implementation of human agents which possess specific characteristics and attributes of risk factors and comorbidities. In addition, they can contract and transmit the virus, change their health status and symptoms, and modify their behavior accordingly. The relationship between the different human agents with each other with the environment is also depicted, as the distance between agents, the use of masks, the respect of places capacity, and the different rules and protocols are key in modeling the transmission of the virus. The behavior of each agent depends on the age group, habits, and neighborhood where they live, which are randomly assigned at the beginning of the simulation according to the population statistics of La Rioja city. The mobility of each agent is linked to the transition state matrices implemented by means of a set of hidden Markov models that I will explain in a minute. As already mentioned, ABC-SIMS has two main blocks. The first one is about virus propagation within the host that includes the infectivity submodel considering epidemiological characterization, and the second one is about host-to-host transmission and covers the different virus transmission mechanisms between hosts, such as infection trace, direct contact, or droplet to face in different spaces, home, office, recreation, public transport, and specific circumstances like place capacity, ventilation, and temperature. Due to the stochastic nature of the phenomenon, several complete runs must be carried out to obtain the final result, requiring the use of a computer cluster. Regarding to the data sources, we have used several. Access to local specific population information from La Rioja is provided by the Argentinian Public Health Research on Data Science and Artificial Intelligence from Epidemic Prevention, ARFI. The information extracted from the Aquario database of La Rioja medical records that was used was de-identified before leaving the state headquarters and were stored and processed at the Center of High Performance Computer under strict security and access rules. On the other hand, several public sources were consulted from different purposes, such as Google Mobility, Google Maps, Google Places, National Weather Service, official government pages, and different local demographic literature. Hidden Markov models are a proper foundation for creating probabilistic models of linear sequencing labeling problems. They deliver a conceptual toolkit for complicated models from a simple, intuitive graphical representation. They are widely used in the biological field. In ABC SIMS, people mobility events are modeled in a discrete time steps with transition probabilities from one state to another that occur during a day in uniform time periods. A transition probability depends only on the state in which the individual is at a given time. There is a particular hidden Markov model for each human agent based on the age, neighborhood, and the time slot corresponding to the simulation time. As shown in the state graph in the figure on screen, all the hidden Markov models have 4 states. Each one represents a different type of location or activity. That's home with C, work with C, leisure with E, and others with O. In turn, each hidden Markov model has its own transition matrix, which represents state change probability. That's the move from one type of location to another. In another way, a Markov model applied to the progression of the illness in a host can be defined as a stochastic model in which the patient is assumed to be in one of a finite number of states, which must be mutually exclusive. In this way, popular epidemiological compartmental models can be seen as a Markov chain model as well. We consider a spread model with 7 states: susceptible, exposed, symptomatic infections, asymptomatic infectious, recovered, hospitalized, and dead. At end of year festivity, people tend to get together for dinner and celebrations, and young people go out partying, increasing the number of personal contacts. A particular analysis of this situation is carried out in this work. Parameters of the ABC SIMS were established to reflect the local characteristics of the city of La Rioja and its inhabitants. In order to use the ABC SIMS as a what-if model, different scenarios were proposed, where the regulatory force varied from minor to major. Based on the impact of the different scenarios would have on the number of ICU beds, health decision makers can establish the level of regulation to implement. For this, some aspects were considered. On the one hand, dinners were representing 4 nights of December 24 and 31, where families are considered to gather to celebrate. The duration of and attendance of dinners were varied from the different scenarios. In addition, parties attended mainly by young people were considered. And since the festivity dates, people visit stores and entertainment venues frequently, the capacity of these places was varied with difference among the tested scenarios. 3 scenarios were proposed and analyzed: a high regulated, a medium regulated, and a low regulated. The high regulated, due to the regulatory constraints that would be proposed, is assumed that 70% of the population would meet at Christmas and New Year's Eve in gatherings of 10 people for a period of 2 hours. Additionally, 20% of young people go out partying, both indoor and outdoor. Also, the minimum distance between people of 1.5 meters is respected at every place. The medium regulated is assumed that 80% of the population would gather in meeting of 15 people each for a period of 2 hours. In addition, 20% of young people would go out partying. if the minimum distance between people would not be respected in shops. And the law regulated is assumed that 90% of the population would meet in gatherings of 20 people for a period of 2 hours, and 40% of young people go partying. In addition, the minimum distance between people would not be respected in shops, leisures, and other venues. For each scenario, bed occupancy, number of symptomatic cases, and number of accumulated deaths per COVID-19 until the end of February were analyzed. Here you can see the ICU beds occupied by the positive COVID-19 patients in the period under study for the three scenarios. ICU beds for COVID-19 positive survived by the official data are shown in black points with the interpolation for field data in green. The dispersion of the corresponding model output in light blue, and in blue its central tendency. It can be seen that as much more gatherings are attended, the effect of festivity generates a stronger impact on the ICU bed occupancy. Next, the daily COVID-19 cases, symptomatics and asymptomatics estimated by the model in the period under study are shown. The first image corresponds to the high regulated scenario, the second to the medium regulated, and the last for the low regulated. And here you can see the accumulated number of deaths due to COVID-19 estimated by the model in the period under study for all scenarios. It can be seen from the result presented that in the low regulated scenarios, where there are more meetings than in other scenarios, there is a relative increase in cases, ICU beds occupancy, and deaths due to COVID-19 from January 20 onwards. This is in line with the expectations, as the effect is not immediate, but due to the in-host illness and the contagion progression, the impact is expected to be seen 2 or 3 weeks after the festivities. In this final graph is shown the daily COVID-19 cases estimated by the model in the period under study for the low regulated scenario. Symptomatic cases are in purple and asymptomatic cases are in red. There is no field data available for this particular analysis. However, ABC SIMS showed that in the low regulated scenario, where there are more contacts with young people who went partying and therefore more contagions, the number of asymptomatic patients increased if it is compared with the previous month. This may be because most of the contacts are among young people, and due to their age, they tend not to show symptoms. A detail to be considered when interpreting these results is that at the time, only alpha and beta variants were circulating, and mass vaccination had not yet begun in Argentina. In addition, the model contemplates the ventilation of homes and buildings, which reduces the rate of contagions because during the holidays it is summer in the southern hemisphere. And finally, in retrospect, and compared with the field data, it is considered that the high regulated scenario is the most representative of what really happened in La Rioja city. This is a good indicator since the scenario is precisely the one that the government proposed at the end of year festivities. Although this is a posteriori analysis, it makes clear that the tool offers the possibility of using the information provided by the simulations to propose some type of restriction, contemplating how much impact it would have, for example, on the increase of ICU beds compared to the cost of implementing these restrictions. In this work, the impact of end-of-year festivity on the local epidemiology of COVID-19 was predicted and analyzed using nation-based model simulation with ABC SIM. It can be concluded that ABC SIMS works well as a what-if model, allowing the analysis of different scenarios and providing decision makers with a useful tool to properly select the social and health policies they implement. These models require a large amount of data and calculation power, but on the other hand, they are almost totally explicit and allow detailed proposal and analysis of particular local situations. In this case, for example, it is expected that the model for a relatively small city with this geographical location, such as La Rioja, will behave very differently from the model for a country capital, such as Buenos Aires. In future works, other cases will be presented, including the impact of ventilation, vaccination, immunity time, and school protocols on the dynamics of COVID-19. Well, to end, I want to present my team. Here you can see all of them. And this work has been funded by the Development Research Center, the International Development Research Center, and the Sweden's Government Agency for Development Cooperation, and the context of R5 project. Also, it has been funded by the Agencia Nacional de Promoción de la Investigación, Desarrollo e Innovación, part of the Ministry of Science and Technology of Argentina, through projects IP 362 of the Coronavirus Priority Line. Thank you very much, and that's all. I don't know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Camila. Very interesting research. A question for you. From a spatial point of view, have you done some specialization of the cases or the infection ways?
Yes, we have done this study after important wave, but it can also be used to predict them. That's the reason of considering a what-if models, because considering especially the behavior, you can predict some variables that will increase the contacts, and you may have a new wave after that. That's the reason of why we have chosen those scenarios.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. There are any questions? Okay, Camila, thank you.
Thank you.
And good afternoon. Now we come back to Onas. Onas, are you ready? Are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. I don't know what happened. I think my connection break here.
Don't worry. We can return on the slide when you are stopped your presentation.
Which one was it? Because
I don't remember very well, but you explained the sites, the mines, the slide where you are explaining probably the fifth or the sixth.
All right, slide. So I'm gonna share it again. Second, please. So I think it's here.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so in the
stage is yours, Jonas.
All right, thank you. In this slide, I was telling about the mining structures that were selected to an evaluation of the speleological potential and also the area of the national park that was created in order to aim the preservation of the geological and geomorphological features in the area. Once there are this conflict of environmental preservation and mining sites at the same place. And all right, the methodology goes through a review and construction of the cartographic database, the limits of study area selection, the choice of cartographic aspects to be considered, the attribution of weights and scores for each of the listed aspects, the preparation of speleological potential map, the preparation of the 3D geological model, the preparation of the 3D geological map, the preparation of the 3D geological potential map, the preparation of speleological 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 potential map, the preparation of spele and the presentation of the potential map in 3D model software for observation in cross sections and validation of the mainly of in terms of topographic aspects. The parameters were considering according to Brazilian legislation, and the features observed were lithology, geological structures, hydrography, geomorphology, and topography. And for each of these features, we mapped it in a raster format made by 20 by 20 meters pixels, and each of these pixels bears a score that was given for each feature. And here we have some tables that shows the score of if each feature, like here in the lithological factors, we have 9 for the iron laterite, the Kanga formations that are really likely to the development of speleological features, and 8 for the limestones and dolomites of Gandarella formation, a 5 for the iron rocks of Kawe formation, and the unlikely rocks for the development of cavities received a 3 and 1 score, a lower score. In structural factors, we have a 5 for axial traits that are more marked feature and a 4 for the other ones. When they are not present, it was a 1. The presence of drains received a 6, the absence a 1, and related to slope factors and topographic factors, flat topography with 0 to 3% slope, the score is 1, and it's rising according to these intervals. And when the slope is above 75%, it receives a 9. And after that, I did this average weighted formula where I gave a higher weight to lithological factors and topography factors. And I got to this formula by experimentation, and this one is the one that represents better the reality according to the ones I tested. And this is the speleological potential map achieved. In red, we have a very high potential, and in dark green, unlikely areas to the development. Here in the middle, we have high potential and medium potential in orange, low potential in yellow, and in light green, a very low potential. We can see that the areas here in red, they have a good correlation in the geological map to the Kanga formations. We can go back there. Just like here in the brown are the Kanga formations. They appear also here in red. And we can see clearly it, but we can't see the how the topography factors affected it. And to see it better, it was built a geological model. And here we got a trend, the average trend of the geological map considered with 290 for azimuth and 15 for deep for all geological structure present. And the iron ore laterites doesn't appear in the model once it's a thin superficial covering layer, and it will not be present in the, it can't be observed in the cross sections. Then we imported the map, the potential map, to the 3D geological modeling software. And here they are represented the high potential for these red areas and the low potential by these blue areas. And when we go to the cross sections, we can see how how it's following as predicted. Here in the cover formation that received a 5 for lithological score, we have some blue and some green areas, maybe sometimes red areas. When we go to the Gandarella formation that received a higher score, it was an 8. We have it almost green every time, except for these areas of higher slopes when we goes to red. In the method sedimentary rocks, it's blue, showing a low potential. An exception occurs here when you have a higher slope that you have some pixels of very high potential. Then we go back to Gandarella formation with it's mainly green again. And then Kawe formation, sometimes green, sometimes blue, just like the first one. And here are the igneous rocks, ortho-derived rocks, that goes to deep blue again, showing a low potential for the occurrence of cavities. And this is a table showing the obtained results. And we can see that the very high potential, there's almost a half of the total cavities. And the high potential 20%, medium 16, short, low potential 12, and the unlikely one, it's a 0. We didn't find any caves in the unlikely portions to the occurrence. And to do this comparison, we used the Brazilian database for registered cavities. And here I bring the potential map with the areas selected of the mining sites and the national park. And what we can see is that here in this yellow area, that's a mining site, it's placed in the same place that we have some very high potential. So it's an alert once they are developing the activities in an area that can have covered caves. Sometimes we can't see it because it can develop only on the underground. So a special care should be taken when operating the dam systems and the mining activities itself. And another thing that I could observe is that in the area of the national park, there are a lot more of cavities registered than in the other portions of the Serra do Gandarella. And my opinion is that it's not because of the non-existence of them, but because of the area of the national park was more studied than the other ones. So in conclusion, we have that the areas presented as having a greater speleological potential had in fact a greater number of existing cavities. We got a good correlation of occurrence of cavities compared with the data provided by Brazilian government. The scores used as well as the weights assigned for each factor in the presented formula gave a representation of reality. The elaboration of geological model allowed the observation of cross-sections that are able to demonstrate the lithological structure and topographic variations. And this study presented the possibility of using geological modeling tools that are mainly applied in mining industry for environmental studies too, once they allow dynamic visualization in addition to being good for the administration of geographic databases. And that's it. Here's my contact. Thank you all for watching. And if you have any questions, it will be a pleasure to answer you.
Thank you, Jonas. very interesting application of the multi-criteria analysis to a geological case study. And double curiosity or question for you from me. The first, have you performed some analysis with a deeper resolution under 20 by 20 meters? And then the second question is the, in the in the multi-criteria analysis, have you think or used additional attributes for the evaluation?
All right.
Thank you.
So in this study, I didn't made any evaluation in higher resolution but my objective is to show how it's possible to apply this kind of study for reaching these results, but it's completely possible to do it with if you have a better topography from 1 to 1 meter, for example, of the area. And a good application that is good to do if you have drill hole data is to make this analysis not only in a surface map, but if we have lithological information and other information from drill holes, we could make the same analysis to subsurface places, and the more data you have, the more closer to reality in greater scales you can achieve. But here for this paper, in my master thesis, I made some more correlations, but I think for this paper it would be way too long, considering the size of the paper we have to respect. And you asked me about an analysis in closer resolution
And if you have used or think to use to take into account other additional attributes to multi-criteria analysis in addition to the ones considered yet.
Yes, I think it can be used another parameters, just like the density of the registered cavities. It's a good one to use, but I think it could distort the result once there are areas that are more studious than other ones. But for sure, we could use, for example, if the relief breaks, for example, not only the slope, but the places of relief breaks, just where it changes from flat to a high slope, it can be another factor that is considered for the appearing of cavities once they are likely to appear in this kind of relief. But just as I said, to achieve this map, I followed the parameters suggested by the Brazilian legislation, but it don't make it impossible to consider other factors that can make the evaluation even more precise.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Onas. I don't know if there are any question. Any question? No. So thank you, Onas. And now we move to the next presentation. I see Carlos. Carlos, are you ready?
Hi for everyone.
Carlos, are you ready? Okay.
Yes, yes.
I'm introducing
I'm
you.
here. I'm here.
I'm introducing.
Hi for everyone.
Okay. So the next presentation is a differential kinematics of a multi-selection robot presented by Carlos Colazos. And Carlos, if you are ready, the stage is yours.
Thank you. We try to share my screen.
Yeah, we don't see your slides. Yes.
Okay. My slides are visible right now.
Yeah, but if you can put on share your screen or share your window, it's better. But if you can't, you can. It's the third button.
Oh, okay. I try to make that share. Am I ready now or not?
Probably is better in this mode. We can go. We can go on. We can go on. Can you pass to the next slide? Only if we check it. Okay.
Okay. I share my screen right now. Is all okay?
Yes, Carlos. You can start.
Thank you. Okay. We present differential kinematics of a multi-section robot. In this talk, we introduce the implementation of the Lie matrix theory of the rigid movements of a body in a multi-link robot. Is the first step. We work by Bezier curves to generate different deformations in a robot. The objective, the objective, excuse me, is can build movements eluding obstacles in a zone called the workspace. We make a simulation of the motion of a multi-link robot that elude obstacles in three-dimensional space. We recall that an affine map is scaled a rigid body motion when preserve distance and preserve orientations. We recall this definition. We give we recalling the basic definitions right now. Um, we consider isometries of three-dimensional space. These isometries mathematically are named through Euclidean group, where an important subgroup is special Euclidean space, when this group is the special case of all rigid body motions. The Lie group dimension of this group is 6. In this way, each rigid body motion can be produced via translation along a line followed by a rotation about an axis parallel to the line. So, in this way, we follow with the semi-direct product in this fashion. Is a mathematical fact. You can see this this symbol represents a special orthogonal group. Okay. First, our main objective is introduce geometric concepts for constructing the differential kinematics of a multi-section robot of a finite number of links based on mathematical models. A simulation will be done using ROS, MATLAB, and Gazebo. Next, I want to tell you about screw theory. A screw is a six-dimensional vector that represents force and torques and linear and angular velocity that arise in the studios of special rigid body motions. And we consider the rigid motions Lie algebra that will be represented by this symbol. This is named twist. Here I present some formulas and some facts about Lie algebra theory. For rotational motions, kinematics strings to a special orthogonal group of order 3, where Lie algebra is isomorphic to Euclidean real space, and the exponential map is chosen, and the exponential map is Untu. We named the Rodriguez formula that in function of exponential of Lie group, the Rodriguez formula states this fact. About twist theory, I recall the homogeneous coordinates. We need an unitary director vector and a point in its rotation axis. We can represent an element of the twist Lie algebra in this fashion with this specification. And we recall that exponential is an ontomap, is a fact about, is a basic fact. It's a basic fact about exponentials of Lie theory. It, talk about more specific facts. I present you, I introduce you a more specific concept, uh, a more specific algorithm. The power of exponentials of Lie group. The the product of exponentials uh, works in this form. For a chain of n plus one links is an inertial frame. We need an inertial frame and a work frame, a frame for all for the space. Uh, it has end joints. We have this figure that illustrates this, and but okay, I recall this algorithm, and this is the and these are the steps to work with the product of exponentials algorithm. Um, we I introduce you four steps, and in this way we make a comprovation, make a simulation in ROS with a continuous robot of five 56 sections. Uh, I introduce you some figures related with this simulation. There are this is so a figure of the simulation. Look the configuration of the multi-link robot. Here here we have this configuration. In this figure we can observe this other configuration, and we have some calculations about the different configurations using Bezier curves, and this is the end of the presentation. I I can't say no more. Thank you for all.
Thank you, Carlos. We check if there are any questions. So, if the no, okay. So, Carlos, thank you very much, and
Thank you.
good morning for you. And so we move to the last presentation of Sonal Soon. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we hear and we see you, Sonal.
Yeah.
And good afternoon. And I introduce you. The paper is a smart security framework for IoT devices, presented by Sonal Seung and Gyang Liu. Sonal, the stage is yours. You can start if you're ready.
Yes. I hope you can see my screen.
No, we can see.
I'm not able to share. It's giving me some error.
If you can share your screen with the third button on, no, you can share your window.
Yeah. Now, still it's showing failed.
Is next to the under the bar, next to the camera.
Yeah, I'm trying the same, but it's showing me some permission issues.
It doesn't work.
Let me try one more time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not.
So it says I don't have the permission to share.
Yeah. Probably you don't you have not permitted to Firefox or Chrome to share your window.
Sure, let me try one more time.
Yeah. You can also exit and then return to the meet. It's necessary.
Yeah, so no, I tried all the steps and it says I don't have the permission to share my screen.
Probably if you come to the upper right of your screen next to the favorite bar, the star of I don't know if you use Chrome
Sure.
or
Is it
Firefox.
possible, like, if Professor Jigang has some PPTs and he can share from his end and then I can explain?
Oh.
Okay, let me try this one. Okay, see.
Sure, Professor.
Oh. 1 second.
Yeah.
Just 1 second. Just 1 second. Okay. Let me see my.
I think I tried it, and does it look? Can you see my screen right now?
Yeah.
Yes, yes. We can
Yes.
see you.
How about now?
Okay, that's great. Yeah.
Okay. So you can see my PPTs, right?
No, it's
no.
just your screen. Yeah.
No.
So
Yeah, we can see your desktop.
Okay. So Windows. See here. I'm trying to. You can see, right? Like I'm trying to select my PPTs, and I'm trying to share it, and it says I don't have the permission.
Okay, let me see my.
Okay. I'm see the screen of Prof. Gianglu.
Can you see mine?
Yeah, but you okay? Can you move to the presentation? Okay. Very good. Okay.
Can you see mine?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
now it
Oh,
works.
okay. All right. So let me get this one too. It's so slow. Okay, I just move page by page.
Yeah, probably.
Okay with you. Okay, all right.
In all window, the PowerPoint presentation is better.
Okay.
Also, if you have in presentation mode,
Let me see. I just click this one. It's on jump to this one. It's I don't know. It's so slow.
Professor, could you please
okay.
click on slideshow? Yeah.
Yeah. It's okay now.
Yes.
yeah. Okay.
Okay. You just yeah. You
If
can
you,
start. I can flip the slides for you. Okay.
Thank you, Professor, and sorry about this.
No
time.
problem.
Sorry. And the last thing, sorry, if you can extend your window of the PowerPoint slideshow,
Oh, okay.
it's better.
Okay, I see this one.
We see on a small part of it. Okay.
I'm not sure about connection. You know, it's so slow. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. It's so slow. You see it? The things is still
force,
spinning.
you can force the exit from PowerPoint and reopen, please.
Oh, reopen it.
And
okay.
we can try to choose the small presentation mode. It's better.
Oh, okay. I see. I just cannot go back. You see. Maybe I need to turn off this one. First quit. Let me do this one. Open this one again. For the presentation mode or slideshow?
No. Okay, it's better. It's better only go with this mode. Probably is better.
In this
I don't know
mode,
if we can check, but I don't know if it's locked already. We can check to slideshow way, and we can
slideshow.
probably we can check if work.
Which one you want me to try?
The last one.
This one slideshow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Is this good?
Yeah. We can start.
Sure.
Okay.
It seems
All right,
work.
I'll flip this.
It seems work.
Yeah.
Okay. The only thing, please, can we check if it work? Can you go to the next slide, please? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It's work. Okay. You can start.
Sure.
The
So,
stage
hello.
is yours.
Yes, thank you. Hello, all. My name is Sonal. I'm here with Professor Jigang, and we are going to present a smart security framework for IoT devices. Next. The outline of our presentation would be introduction related work, followed by the overview of both the technologies, then design of our framework, case studies, and finally we will conclude our study. Next. Now coming to the introduction part. Next. So what is an Internet of Things? So it's an network where large number of smart devices are connected internally. And nowadays, those IoT devices are growing rapidly and resulting a bigger data exchange. Because of this, the number of challenges as well as security and privacy risks are getting increased. You can see the survey report which shows the data from 1992 to 2020. Next. Now, talking about the cyber attacks on IoT devices, as those IoT devices are vulnerable, they are open for any medium to high severity attacks. You can see in this study, which shows the attacks on IoT devices, and hence the cryptography solution, the demand for cryptography solution got increased. Next. Then why do we need machine learning in IoT? As I just said, we are dealing with large amount of data, and if we want to do some work on it and to save some manual work and efforts, we have to consider the machine learning. Nowadays, you can see recommender system and prediction methods are become apparent, and hence the objective of this study is to provide the security for IoT devices by using machine learning. And to achieve it, we are going to classify the cyber attacks on IoT devices. We are going to find out the cryptography algorithm. We will see what are the considerable factors, as well as we are going to see how to apply machine learning techniques on the combination of IoT and cryptography algorithms. Next. Then let's talk about some current study. Next. So if you notice, this is the data we are having as of now. And I can say that there are a lot of work has been already done on machine learning or recommender system or cryptography separately. I'm calling it as a separately. Why? Because there is no as such one paper is available or studies available that can contribute both the technologies all together and presented some work. And hence, our objective is to combine these technologies together. Next. Now, let's give some brief overview of IoT and cryptography. Next. This diagram shows the different IoT applications with their different services provided, as well as the actual IoT device. Let's take one example. if we're talking about the healthcare can provide the service such as elderly care. And what will be the IoT device they are going to use? Smartphone. Similarly, you can notice from this diagram different IoT devices, same IoT devices can be used to provide different IoT services that comes under different IoT applications. And hence, next, from this table, can we say that like same IoT device, different cyber attacks can happen? Yes, we can say that, because those devices can be used to provide different IoT services and can be vulnerable to have a different kind of cyber attacks. Now we are here to combine those two technologies, which is IoT and cryptography. And what will be our key here? The key is cyber attacks. We are going to join these two technologies with the help of cyber attacks. Next. And now let's talk about some cryptography. Nowadays, you may heard of it like it is very demanding technology. Why? Because it protects our information in secured way. There are different methods, different techniques are available, and it also can provide secured communication in terms of confidentiality, data integrity, and those features I have mentioned here. Next. Now, this is a table. I took it from different study paper. The left hand side, you can see the algorithms, and here you can see their features. For example, cost, block, speed, and all, along with cyber attacks. Here, whatever we mention, those are that field cyber attacks means that particular algorithm is vulnerable for that kind of cyber attacks. Taken for example, let's take an example, first one, which is DES, that can be vulnerable to have the cyber attacks kind of brute force attacks or man in the middle attacks. So can we consider it as an like evaluation parameter whenever we are thinking about to spend some time on cryptography? Yes, we can. And that's the reason, next, we are calling those factors as an evaluation parameter, and we considered like cost, speed, power consumption as in strong and weak factors. Why I'm calling it as a strong or weak? Let's take an example. If I'm talking about cost, so cost should be low, and that is its weak factor. And let's say if I'm talking about the speed, so speed should be high, so that is its like strong point. So that's the reason we have considered these strong and weak factors as an evaluation parameter in our study. Next. Now, as we already talking about the cyber attacks and the cryptography algorithm, we need to see whether is there any study is already done on that particular attacks and recommend some algorithm to us. Yes, there are some manual study has already been done, and what the study says if there is a cyber attacks which is called brute force attack, you should use AES, Blowfish, or IDEA. So those are nothing but the recommendation manually done by our study, but as of now there is no fixed solution for each attack with each cryptography algorithm. Next. And hence we design our smart security framework. We are going to present our design of recommender system. So this is the system where this is the design where we had divided into two parts. If you notice, the upper part is training and testing model, the lower part is predicting the output. So what will be our input here? Our input would be the IoT as well as cryptography data. Once we will clean our data, we are going to divide our data into 20 to 80% of ratio for training and testing model respectively. Once we will take 20% of data, we are going to apply classification and textual analysis. I'm talking about these two technologies which comes under the machine language, but we gave here the separate stage, and we're going to discuss why. And later on, once we will form our model, we're going to test that model on remaining 80% of data set. And let's say we want to remodify some rules for both the phases. We're going to do it, and later on we will made our model like final prediction model, and that comes into the second phase where we're going to use that model as it is for new input. I'm calling it as a new input. I will explain it later why, but whatever will the result is, it would be our label, and the label would be our output. And of course we decided to store our new input and output, like key and value pair, in our data set, so that we can use that data in our next iteration, whether it's the same or different input. Next. And now I just said like we are going to use the classification and textual analysis, but here the methodology is all depend upon these two phases. We have divided the task, like we can say like steps, into 5 steps. You can notice like first 3 steps comes under classification, and next 2 steps comes under textual analysis. We're going to discuss it briefly in next slide. Please, next. Okay. Firstly, discuss about like what are the methods we have used for the classification. So we have used supervised machine learning. Why? Because we already know the labels. The concept is like that. If you know the labels, you can use the supervised. So that's when we use the supervised machine learning. We use decision tree classification method from the machine learning, as it's already been there, and we are handling large amount of data, and our data is scattered. For example, one application have many services, and many services can have multiple IoT devices, and that is the entropy function and information gain method we have used as it is, and we are going to feed our data in this formula. Next. Now, as we are talking about decision tree, we have to use some splitting rules. And what will be the rules we have said? So as we are talking about IoT application, and there are many, right? So we are going to split according to it. There are services, there are IoT devices, there are cyber attacks. So those are nothing but our splitting rules. And I just said like why we are using decision tree. We are handling large amount of data. It's a scattered data, and we need to divide our data in some subset of data. Next. Let's take in this example. I'm going to explain the algorithm of first phase, which is classification over here. Let's take an example. Let's see, we are having smart home. So smart home is an IoT application, right? It can provide multiple services. So let's take one example like home appliances management. Then we are going to classify the services as well in IoT devices. So home appliances can have multiple IoT devices. So we are going to classify the IoT devices as well. And once we got the IoT devices, we are going to classify the different cyber attacks that can happen on that IoT devices. So up to now, we are having application, we are having service provided by them, we are having IoT devices used under it. Now, our last task is to label the crypto algorithm to our outcome. And what would be our outcome? Here, outcome would be cyber attacks. And as of now, manual work has been done, and they have suggested many, I'm not talking about only one, but many recommendation for cyber attacks, and that would be our cryptography algorithm. So in classification phase, what we have one IoT application, and we have many cryptography solution, right? So that's what would be our output from classification phase, and we are going to use this output in the form of input to our textual analysis, which we'll discuss in next slide. Next, we already discussed about the algorithm. Next. Now let's take some, let's say, what is a textual analysis? Here, this is the part of machine learning. If you have unstructured data, if you don't have by default algorithm for your data, then what we are going to do, we can set our own rules. We can set our own algorithms, and that can as it is used in our textual analysis, and you can set our own textual analysis. And that's the methodology we have used in our second phase. How we have achieved it? So what we did, as I just said, we have right now one to many relationship. For example, one IoT application and many cyber attacks and many cryptography solution. Now I have to choose one from that list, and how I'm supposed to decide which one is suitable for my IoT device. So here what we gave, we already know our factors, which parameter factors, right? We considered those factors and we have given some weight to each factor. And finally we are going to do some sum, and whoever has the highest weight, that would be our result, and that would be our output. We're going to discuss the algorithm in next phase. Next. So what is the formula? So this is the weight. We consider the parameters. Along with those parameters, we have to we need some so we consider some others parameters too. For example, impact per device, coefficient value. Why we choose it? I'm going to discuss it in next slide. Next. So let's talk about the weight. So those are the weights we have given to each parameter. I just said, right, like we have some pros and cons for each parameters, and accordingly we have given the weight to each parameter. Here I'm just talking about the evaluation parameter. On right hand side the table, you can see it's just simple sample of data where we have just replaced the actual value with the weight value. Next. Now I said, right, we have already considered two more things, which would be our K and E. K is nothing but the coefficient value. Why we choose it? We need to see what kind of IoT device it is, right? Like if it's a server, if it's a gateway, if it's IoT edge device, and accordingly we have set some coefficient value. Then the last thing is impact per device. We have considered the parameter, we have considered the coefficient, but what about the attacks? On that particular the algorithm is also can be vulnerable and can have some other attacks too. So we have considered those attacks so that we will get we can deep it down, and we will get the perfect match for our IoT device. And that's the consideration of our coefficient value as well as impact per device. Next. So we have all the parameters, we have the coefficient value, we have the impact per device. Now what we have to do? We have to collect all, we have to do sum for each algorithm. We got it from classification phase, and accordingly we will find whoever has the highest weight, that would be our final result. And that's what we got from our final phase, which is textual analysis algorithm. Next, please. Now we up to this point we done with the training and testing. Now the final phase comes under which is the second phase, which is prediction method. I'm going to discuss this algorithm with the help of two case studies, but just giving an overview. We're going to see whether the given input is new or it's already present in our database. Let's consider some use cases. Next. Next, please. Okay, now let's consider first use case where we are just considering our output is new, which is not present in our database. So from which stage we are going to start? We are going to build our training and testing model. We're going to create our prediction model. And here we just took an example of camera, and we just figured it out what kind of, like we did some assumption, because right now there is no data as such available currently, because all studies has been done very manual kind of thing. So that's the reason we have just made some assumption and considered in first case use case we don't have the output for our given input, which is nothing but the IoT devices. And we made assumption that it's not available in both the files, like our input file, and we need to go from start to end, and this is how we will get the output. Now let's go to the next slide. I think this is the wrong outline, but yeah, now this is a table. I just said, right, we have made some assumption. Now let's we took the example of camera. You can see we have divided our steps with the classification and the textual analysis, and final steps we got like, okay, the blowfish is the cryptography algorithm we should use for the camera, and here we just consider it's not available in our database, and this is all assumption. Now let's assume the second use case. Considered it's already been present in our database, so we can we think like in that specific time duration.
Sonal, sorry, but if you can accelerate, because in 5 minutes it starts next session. So
Yes.
if you can go to the conclusion, please.
Yes, conclusion. Yes, so what we have presented, we have presented the framework that can provide the security. It's automated stuff for the machine learning concept that combines two technologies, which is IoT and cryptography together. We also classified the IoT devices in terms of their uses and the areas, and we also addresses the cyber attacks for each classification which we got from the IoT application devices and the services. We also addresses the key features for the cryptography, that would be our parameters, and finally we propose a model that is the combination that firstly that classify the cyber attacks on each IoT devices. Also we use a textual analysis method that gives the most relevant cryptography algorithm to IoT devices. That's all for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonal. Interesting research and very complete. There are any questions? No questions. So, Sonal, have a good day. Have a good day. Have a good morning. And with your presentation, this session is concluded. So, in 3 minutes, we pass to the next session. And now we have a small coffee break.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Liu.
Hello, Natasha. I think I'm with the chair of this joint session, and we are waiting for our assistant.
Hi, I'm Soledad,
Hi.
the technical assistant of this session.
Okay, I am with the chair of this session, Elena Stankova. We are, I think, ready. Yes. So, just a minute, I have one problem. Okay.
When you want.
Yes, I have one problem. I just want to open the program of our session, but the site asked me my login and password. So I'm very sorry. Just a minute. Yes. Let's start. So our first presentation should be made by the authors Gabriel Freitag, João Lima, Paola Rech, and Felipe Navo. Impact of reduced and mixed precision on the efficiency of a multi-CPU platform on CFD applications. Who will be the presenter, the speaker?
Hi, I'm
Hi.
Gabriel Freitag.
Okay, the floor is yours. Please, Gabriel.
Okay, let me just change. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Well, my name is Gabriel. I'm a PhD student at the University of Rio Grande do Sul in Brazil, and our work is entitled "The Impact of Reduced and Mixed Precision on the Efficiency of a Multi-GPU Platform on CFD applications." The demand for computational and storage resources on modern large-scale applications like scientific computing, artificial intelligence, data mining, and many others exceed current availability of high-performance computational systems. The execution of such large-scale applications results in a high energy consumption. And current hardware in such systems have a large amount of support for a lot of different computational characteristics supported in hardware, like current GPUs from NVIDIA have support in hardware for half precision computation, have cores for TensorFlow, and so on. And one of the strategies used between a large amount to reduce both energy consumption and increase and reduce the execution time of applications is mixed precision. Mixed precision is a paradigm that exploits the application's inherent error resilience to improve the performance and/or energy efficiency. The resiliency arises from the absence of a perfect result or due to the application's ability to self-heal despite computational errors or to accumulate. And this makes it possible to trade off the quality of result by the performance and energy efficiency of the execution. As mentioned before, current GPUs, graphic processing units from NVIDIA, have hardware support for half-precision arithmetics. Moreover, they have hardware support for two-way half-precision arithmetics. This means that it is possible to perform two operations, half-precision arithmetic operations, in parallel using the same hardware of a single precision floating point unit. This gives us the double performance compared to a single precision operation. NVIDIA CUDA API also supports intrinsic mathematical functions that are faster than the regular ones because they map to fewer native instructions. Here is an example of intrinsic mathematical functions from CUDA. At the left, we have single precision operations, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. And at the right, we have at the top the conversion of a float or a half precision data to a half-2 data type. Half-2 data types are vectorized data type. This means that we have two halves in one single data type named half-2. And this makes it possible to perform two half-precision operations in parallel in hardware on current modern NVIDIA GPUs. And at the end, we have an example of how we access the different numbers or different data in such a vectorized data type. Therefore, our goal is to analyze performance and energy consumption of NVIDIA's intrinsic mathematical functions using reduced and mixed precision on a computational fluid dynamic method. The method we use is the well-known Lattice-Boltzmann, which is a numerical method for fluid flow simulation and fluid physics modeling. It is a three-dimensional model with 19 propagation directions. Our model also have a bouncy back mechanism for collisions with obstacles. Our model uses a obstacle at the middle of the flow. Here we have the pseudocode of the method. At the beginning, we have the initialization of the method and then the computation. After the redistribution of the forces, we have the synchronization of the boundaries of each part of the model belonging to each of different GPUs. We use up to 4 GPUs in our experience. Therefore, we split the model in 4 pieces, and we need to synchronize these 4 pieces to be able to compute the model correctly. Then we have propagation, bounce back, and relaxation routines. We implemented 3 different versions of this method. The first one is named multi-GPU, and it uses the same precision for both arithmetic operations and storage. Can be double, single, or half precision. Moreover, it uses the regular mathematical functions from CUDA. The second implementation, named multi-GPU float, uses float or single precision arithmetical functions and can store the data in both double, float, or half precision. The decision of storing in double, float, or half is made before at compile time. And this implementation uses the intrinsic mathematical functions from CUDA, as well as the third implementation, named multi-GPU half-2, which also uses intrinsic mathematical functions, but performs the arithmetical operations in half precision. The machine used in our experiment is composed of 2 Intel Xeon, 22 cores each, and has 256 gigabits of main memory. It has 4 NVIDIA Tesla P100 GPUs, and we use GCC 8.3. Here we have some results comparing regular versus intrinsic functions using on one GPU. The single precision for both storage and arithmetic operations on a domain of size 352 three-dimensional achieves the use of intrinsic mathematical functions allows us to improve the performance up to 1.44 of speedup and reduce the power consumption 36%. Now looking to the performance of using all 4 GPUs, we have a speedup of 1.31 and a power consumption of a reduction of power consumption of 32%. Now looking to half precision for storage and arithmetic operations on the same domain size, we achieved a speedup of 1.39 and 36% less power consumption. And with 4 GPUs, a speedup of 1.31 and 28% less power consumption. This shows us that intrinsic mathematical functions are faster than the regular ones and have and reduce the power consumption significantly. Now looking to the performance and accuracy on 4 GPUs of each of the 3 implementations using double, single, and half precision for storage, we can see that as expected, as we reduce the precision of the storage, all 3 implementations perform better, have a lower execution time. Looking at the accuracy loss for our multi-GPU float and half-2, which use intrinsic functions, the accuracy loss is almost the same using each of the 3 precisions for storage. And now, using half precision for storage on the multi-GPU implementation, which uses regular functions, the accuracy loss is very different, very higher in smaller domain sizes than with greater but a larger domain sizes, and is higher than our implementations that use intrinsic mathematical functions. Looking into the power consumption and GPU utilization, we can see that again, as we reduce the precision of the data storage, the power consumed reduced significantly, and our implementations using intrinsic mathematical functions have a significantly lower power consumption compared to regular functions. Looking to the utilization of the GPU, we can see that on smaller domain sizes, lower the storage precision, it reduces the utilization of the GPU, and increases as the size of the domain increases. Looking to the total memory used and the utilization of the memory, which is the rate of read and write performant on the memory. The memory used is the same as in all three implementations, because only difference is in the arithmetic operations performed, but the total memory used is the same in each one. Now looking to the pressure on the memory, we can see that as we reduce the precision of the storage, the pressure increases, but comparing irregular mathematical functions with intrinsic mathematical functions, intrinsic have a reduced pressure on the memory.
Sorry. Okay, you have 2 minutes for questions
okay.
and finish.
Okay. CUDA's floating point intrinsic mathematical functions combined with reduced and mixed precision have shown a great improve in performance and power consumption. The use of intrinsic functions reduces the performance, the pressure on GPU's global memory, especially with single and half precision. And half 2 in our case doesn't improve the performance of our implementation as expected. This is mainly because our implementation is not optimized for half 2 and therefore achieve the same performance as a single precision. The next steps of our work is improve, therefore, the performance of the half 2 implementation, and implement analyze other iterative methods to see how intrinsic mathematical functions and half 2 can improve the performance of other iterative methods. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriel. Questions, please. We have 1 minute for questions. Any questions? No. Okay, I have one. Gabriel, can you tell me, do you expect to implement your approach to prove your approach on another applications, CFD applications?
CFD applications or other iterative methods, because in iterative methods you have a large amount of iterations being performed, and some applications with iterative methods we have a lower accuracy loss, and therefore they are more suitable for half precision, because half precision increases significantly the loss in some applications.
Okay, thank you very much. Very interesting. So the next presentation, sorry, will be The name is Investigation. Yes, I'm here. Yes, Investigating Oil and Gas CSEM application on vector architectures. So the authors are Felix Dahl, Pont, Michael Junior, Lucas Melo, Shonor, and Felipe Oliver Alexander Navo. Sorry for making mistakes in pronunciation of your names. Who will be the speaker?
I am Felix.
Oh, you are welcome. Please
Yeah.
start.
Is the screen being shared already?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay.
Please start.
Hello, everyone. My name is Felix. I'm a master's student and researcher in the Parallel and Distributed Processing Group at the Institute of Informatics inside the Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul, Brazil. Today, I will be presenting this paper entitled Investigating Oil and Gas CSEM Application on Vector Architectures, authored by me, Felix Michels, Lucas Chinor, and Felipe Navo. The investments of the petrochemical industry and the academic studies in controlled source electromagnetic, which is CSEM for short, has only increased in the last 15 years. CSM provides more data and therefore more information to give new insights on the seafloor bed, consequently reducing risk. That's the main reason for this investment. It's to reduce this risk when going forward with the prospecting operation. To produce more detail, normally it is used 3D inversion. However, with 2D inversion, it is quicker and produces a more straightforward result, which makes it a more sensible approach. For 2D inversion, especially for this paper, we use the modeling with adaptive refined elements for 2D electromagnetics, which is MARI2DM for short, which is an open source code for 2D inversion of CSEM and other kinds of electromagnetic data, which will be the application we utilize in this project. Also, to improve performance further, vector processors are a great candidate, especially for CSEM. One prominent feature of these vector processors is the possibility of using an instruction to reproduce hundreds of operations. Our objectives are to describe the implementation of MARI2DM on XSX Aurora, which is a vector processor. The standard Intel math library was substituted for the MARI2DM in the SX Aurora because Next architecture does not support it. All entries that require Intel's math library were rewritten, supporting the vector processor math libraries. And to investigate the performance analysis of this implementation by comparing it with an x86 architecture CPU utilizing the original implementation. Now first, a very brief example of how CSEM works. An electrical field transceiver or transmitter is put above the seafloor bed, which rests close to the seafloor, but not exactly at the bottom. Then electromagnetic receivers are spaced out on top of the seafloor, resulting in the CSM data in these range intervals of the receivers. And again, another definition just to it's about MARI2DM. What it is again an open source application for 2D inversion of CSEM data. This software is highly parallelizable And most importantly, for the vector processors, it has abundance of matrix to matrix multiplications, which favors vector calculations. Now on the adaptation process, some quirks that were found for adapting March2DM for vector processors. There are some minor discrepancies due to different Fortran versions. Mainly, the bind C interface was not working exactly with Next compiler, but it was possible to rearrange the code to not need it. Furthermore, the math library needs to be substituted by a general math library, or in this case, we chose to implement the next math library because it works specifically to the needs of its own vector engine. Here we have an overview of the vector architecture SCX Aurora Tsubasa from NEC. It has 8 cores at 1408 megahertz, 3 levels of cache, and a global memory of 48 gigabytes. It can reach 307 gigaflops in double precision per core, and 1.22 terabytes per second with its 6 HBM2 memories. Also, very importantly, it has a vector length of 256 units. Now a more detailed image here about the architecture. This environment again has 8 cores, a global memory, and a cache L3. Each core has a memory cache L1 and L2. 1 unit of scalar processing unit. 1 unit of scalar processing, the SPU, and a vector processing unit. Each VPU contains a load buffer, a store buffer, and 32 vector parallel pipelines. The architecture we'll be comparing XXR2 is an x86 Cascade Lake processor with 24 cores, 3 cache levels, and 192 gigabytes of DDR4 memory. Now about the experimental setup. And in this work, 3 experiments are presented, 2 of them utilizing an artificial demonstration dataset, and another one using a real-world dataset provided by Petrobras, which is a petroleum and gas company here in Brazil. The artificial demonstration dataset is relatively small compared to the real-world dataset, with only 1,028 data points and 17,054 data points for the real-world dataset, almost 17 times more data. Petrobras provided the real-world dataset. This second dataset was collected on the ocean floor, utilizing the proper equipment. There are 3 experiments again. The first one uses several workers. In this case, for the x86 architecture, it was utilized 23 workers and 1 master, corresponding to the 24 cores of the CPU, utilizing a default group distribution. Next architecture, on the other hand, utilizes 7 workers plus 1 master and the same default distribution. Now the second experiment, which utilizes the same demonstration data set. However, now we only utilize 1 worker and 1 master for each of the architectures. Last, the third experiment uses Petrobras, utilizing Petrobras dataset to utilize 23 workers and 7 workers for the x86 architecture and the SCX Aurora architecture, plus 1 master for each. 10 executions were performed for all experiments. achieving the mean execution time and error. Also, a visual outcome validation is performed to be sure that the modifications done to the code do not affect the final result. Here in the next two slides, I'll show a comparison between Mario 2D and final iterations, being the original implementation on the top and the modified one on the bottom. Here we have the demonstration dataset truth. Here we should pay attention to the two bodies here. These two bodies on the close to the surface of the seafloor. Here we have the comparison of the demo dataset, the demonstration dataset. Here we can see the two bodies again, this just like the truth, and we can also see visually there is no difference between the two images. Continuing here, we have the validation for the comparison for the real-world data set. And again, in both these slides, we can see that visually there is no difference between the two images, the top and the bottom one. Therefore, we can assume that the modifications implemented did not have big impact on the final result. And now the results of the first experiment, the performance analysis. Here, the vector processor performs worse than the x86 architecture by around 15%. However, upon further investigation, it was attested that the amount of data was too small for each worker. So we proposed the second experiment with only one worker. Here, it was possible to achieve a 39% increase in performance. So SG's Aurora runtime was around 2,677 seconds, and the x86 architecture achieved 3,728 seconds. The final experiment with the real world data set, we achieved a 27% increase in performance, going from 2,964 seconds for x86 to 2,431 seconds for SG's Aurora. Now, as a final comparison, this graph illustrates the path taken by this project. We began the runtime evaluation with a worse performance for SG's Aurora. However, when we changed for the real-world dataset, we were able to achieve an increase in performance of 27%. As a conclusion, modeling CSM data is an arduous process. It is crucial to have the right tool for the right job. So this work utilized the SG's Aurora vector architecture to try and harvest its potential on a CSEM modeling software called Mario 2DM. Mario 2DM is highly parallelizable and has many matrix-to-matrix multiplications, which favors vector architectures. SG's Aurora was able to improve the performance of a real-world CSEM dataset, going from 2,964 seconds to 2,341 seconds, approximately 27% increase in performance. As future work, we will extend this analysis to more real-world datasets, if possible. Implementation of we will implement also performance optimization techniques such as loop unrolling and inlining, similar to a previous work done by us, and expanded further with loop tiling and loop interchange optimizations. Finally, a more in-depth study of the correlation between group refinement configurations and overall performance is necessary. Here we have the reference, some acknowledgements to the three projects that made this work possible, and our group computational infrastructure. And thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we are waiting for the questions.
I have a small question. First, thank you, Felix, for your presentation. And can you return to the 10 slide?
Sure.
Uh,
Slide 10?
10, yes.
Yes.
So you, the question is 23 workers in artificial demonstration. It was so because in the real world data you also have so what was the reason for 23 workers?
The 23 workers and the one master is related to the cores of the architecture. In this case, for the x86 architecture, there is 24 cores. So for next vector architecture, there are 8 cores. So we just 23 workers and one master, and 7 workers and one master for next.
Okay, thank you. And to continue on the last picture, the final result. So am I right that the real data is better, has the better performance than the experimental?
The demo that, in this case, the real world data set here referenced only one iteration of the whole work. For just for information, to finish the work of on the real data set to get the final result, it takes around 20 days. So for this paper, we just extracted the final image that we can see in this slide to compare to validate it, to be sure it was not wrong. But it was not possible because of time constraints to run 10 times to have more rigorous statistical results. So we chose to run only one iteration. In this case here, we have one iteration of the whole of the real data set. But for the demo, the demonstration, the artificial data set, it is the whole program. On the experiment, one is the whole program. It's not only one iteration. So the real world data set is much larger. The runtime is much larger than the demo.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Felix. Any other questions? No questions? Sorry. So thank you once more, Felix, and we will start the next presentation. Okay. So the next presentation is entitled as New Technologies for Storing and Transferring Personal Data. The authors are Nadezhda Щеголева, Natalia Zalutskaya, Alina Dambaeva, Yasur Giyamov, and Alexander Dick. So, who will present?
I will present. I'm Щеголева Nadezhda, and
You're
now,
welcome.
thank you. I'll try to show my presentation. Did you see it?
Yes, fine.
Okay, thank you. Hello, dear colleagues. I'm very glad to hear and sometimes to see you. And I will speak about new technologies for storing and transferring personal data. Over the past few years, information technology has been developing at a dizzying pace, and every year the connection between real and virtual worlds is becoming stronger. However, unlike the real world, any information that appears in virtual space is distributed almost instantly. And it is extremely difficult and sometimes almost impossible to remove it from the network. And at the same time, the number of data leaks is growing exponentially every year. According to the Data Leakage and Breach Intelligence Service, medical institutions are among the organization in which data breaches are most often recovered. Veronis, its information security company, believes that the losses of medical institution in 2020 data leaks amounted more than $7 million, and its increase more than 10% compared to the previous year. And judging by the dynamics of 2021, these losses increase, and the same dynamics we can see in this year. The life cycle of leak in the health sector, from the commissions of an attack to its detection and remediation, reached a record 329 days in 2020. Obviously, this is due to the catastrophic lack of the time to analyze incidents in the health sector, all efforts of which were aimed at combating the pandemic. And in this situation, health care institutions were unable to adequately protect the main things, their personal data of citizens. Cybersecurity experts note the new trends in the black market. Information and medical products, various kinds of filing cabinets, are gaining more and more popularity. It is worth noting a special category of medical personal data related to the field of mental health. According to the experts from Federal State Institution Bechterev National Medical Research Center, labeling a person as mentally ill often entails serious social consequences, attributing certain negative characteristics to a person, and as a result falling into social isolation and distancing others, and the infringement of rights. And to protect data in practice, several groups of methods are used. Recently, one of the most effective approach is the data protection in depth. This approach uses multiple levels of data protection, and this allows us to increase the security of the system and reduce the risk unauthorized access to information. And we propose use two levels of protection. And the first level is implemented using a cryptographic encryption algorithm that provides data protection by converting it into a form that is incomprehensible and useless for an attacker. And the second level of protection is provided with the help of steganography. That is an algorithm that hides not only the content of stored information, but also the very effect of storing or transmission some data embedded in the image. An analysis of the proposed encryption technology shows that the most promising is the use of symmetric encryption technology. The advantage of symmetric encryption algorithm is their simplicity, since one key is used for both encryption and decryption. So such algorithms are much faster than their asymmetric encryption counterparts. Of course, they require less computing power, don't reduce internet speed, and allow you to quickly encrypt a large the amount of data. And the most promising and one of the most common symmetric encryption algorithm is advanced encryption system. Today, this algorithm used in a very different application and is the most popular encryption algorithm. Another approach is barcodes. Currently, barcodes are widely used in most medical institutions for fast and accurate management of patient flow. However, when realizing access to information or financial and material resource within the framework of corporate networks through barcodes. In a significant number of medical institutions, there is an almost open transmission of patient information through communication channels. It's very bad. And in this case, there are many opportunities for intercepting confidential personal data, their substitution or replacement of this data by modifying them, since the barcode decryption algorithms are open and the programs implementing this process are also in the public domain. Therefore, in order to protect the personal data of patients, an additional step of hiding data from being read by illegal users should be implemented. Just a moment. And we propose algorithm for embedding personal information in a color image. And the first step of this algorithm is preparation of messages with documentary information. For example, full name, year and place of birth, biometrical data, examination results, and so on. And after that, we arrange them into semantic groups to record them in 3 barcodes. Second step is encryption of messages with documentary information. We prepare messages with documented information, and then we encrypt it by using the IS algorithm and key generation, the length of which is chosen by the user in accordance with the security requirements. Next steps, we write these encrypted messages to barcodes. And after that, we must prepare the container of image container. As you know, all color images consist of 3 components. We call it RGB. And with each component, it's a half-tone image. And from this half-tone image, we removed the LSB least significant bit layer. The part wall size corresponds to the size of the embedded QR code. And after that, we perform formation of the container image. In place of removed part of the LSB layer of half-tone images RGB component, and the contents of the QR codes are embedded. Next, we perform a reverse operation. We combining all the layers of grayscale images into one color image. And in this case, this image will contain personal information in form of QR code. And this process you can see in this slide. So all scheme of the process of embedding information in color image will have this type of, you can see it in the slide. But our purpose of forming container image is to hide information during the transfer and storage of personal data. However, as experiments show, not every image can be used for this purpose. This is due to the fact that all barcodes recorded in the one area of LSBLS can be lead to a slight distortion of the original image. At the same time, this distortion may not be noticeable to an ordinary user. And at the same time, a specialist will notice a difference which can be explained, for example, by errors in data transmission. But if we are selling, these images will not correct this situation, and this will lead to increase attention to these images, and this contradicts the task. And this problem we can solve in different ways. The first easiest way is to choose an image that will change slightly when barcodes are added to LSB layers. To do this, we can calculate the color histograms of image obtained from original color image. And in this case, the larger the range of values, as you can see in this slide, the most suitable will be this image as a container. And you can see three different images, and you can see the first image will be a variable container. We can't use it. Figure number 2 shows an image in which distortion will be hardly noticeable. And figure 3 shows an image that should be chosen as a container. And if we put our QR code in LSB array, we don't recognize this code. We don't know are there this QR code or no. And let's consider the content of barcode in more detail. As you know, QR code consists of 6 components: indentation, search pattern, alignment patterns, bars, version, and data cells. The first 2 components, the indent and the search patterns, which correspond to the largest areas that have one color, which can distort the original image. And of course, they have a greatest importance for the formation of the barcode image. But these components have a size strictly limited by standard, so they can be removed before being placed in the container and added when we reading the barcodes. And another approach will make the code invisible will be dividing this part of a barcode into several parts and writing it to different parts of the image. And the position for writing in each layer may be different. An example of possible ways of separate barcodes and option for writing them to the container you can see in the slide. And the last approach that we can propose that allows you to hide the information contained in barcodes is use the geometric transformation of image matrices. Rotation by the angle that is multiple of 90 degrees, matrix transposition, rotation, rounds indexes that coincides with one of the rows or columns, and so on. And some examples of such transformation you can see on the right corner of the slide. Until now, the question has remained aside: how does the receiver of such an image container with patient personal data find out the performed barcode conversation? The solution of this problem can be implemented either by generation and encryption key in such a way that it contains values corresponding to certain transformation in certain places, and then receiver of the messages can perform all the necessary actions. Other way around is on the basis of preliminary agreement between the sender and the receivers of the order and list of transformations to be performed. Of course, a combination of above approaches is also possible. And in view of the foregoing, the proposed new technologies for storing and transferring personal data will consist of the following steps, which are shown on the slide. And this technology was implemented as application, consisting of 2 modules for the sender and for receivers. At the same time, as can be seen from the presented figures, it's enough for the sender of personal data to simply select necessary information from Excel tables, specify the encryption key, and select an image to form the container. Knowing the key, the receiver can either extract information from the container image. It is worth noting that the original image has not changed much, and without knowledge about the presence of any information in it, the attacker will not pay attention to it, and therefore we will be able to safely store and transfer personal medical data. And in conclusion, I want to say that it should be noted that container images obtained in this way don't not make it possible to detect the existence of documentary personal information in them. And the use of color images with QR codes embedding in them containing encrypted information as a storage and carried personal data will ensure the protection of this information, as well as restrict open access to it, since the embedded information can be read and can be decrypted only if the encryption key is presented and knowledge of the structure of information is known. And thank you very much. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Nadezhda. It was very interesting. So, any questions? Please, colleagues. Okay, Nadezhda, I have one question. How do you see the progress? In what direction the next progress of your work will be developed? How do you see it?
I think we must use this technology in real application because we work with our colleagues from Bacteria Center and it's their task and they have a storage and we must to put our application into this storage and we must to analyze the results of using this application and we will try to understand it's a good idea, maybe we must to change our approach in some way.
Okay, thank you. And is it possible to use your application to all medical institutions? There is no some, I think, specific features only for one medical direction, or that is, it can be used in any, I think, field, office, firm, where you have to, you have your personal data to be safe.
Yes, of course, very interesting questions because I described these technologies to our students, and first of all, one from them speak, okay, I will give it and put it in our application. Yes, of course, we can put any dates in QR codes, and so we can protect our personal data in any application, in any areas.
Okay, so I think you have very promising future for your research.
I hope, but there are many hackers who try to
yes
take our personal data.
All your ideas. Okay.
Thank
you. Thank you. Any other questions, colleagues? If no, then I think the last presentation, we have 1 minute. So I hope the next presenter is here. So the next presentation is entitled Numerical Solution of a 3D System of Transient and Nonlinear Pdes arising from Larvae, Algae, mussels interactions. The authors are Ramoni Azevedo, Charles Barbosa, Isaac Santos, Jose Silva, Dice Pastores, and Anna Costa, who will present the research.
Hi, everyone.
Okay. Please introduce yourself.
I will share my screen.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wonderful. Please start.
That's okay.
Okay, please start.
Then, my name is Isaac. I'm from Brazil, Federal University of Espírito Santo. The title of our work is Numerical Solution of a 3D system of transient and nonlinear Pdes partial differential equations arising from larvae, algae, and mussels interactions. In this presentation is composed of the introduction, the mathematical model, numerical formulation, and numerical experiments, and the conclusions. The golden mussel was introduced in Brazil in the 1990s. It is an invasive alien species, becoming an environmental problem of great concern. The Brazilian Institute for the Environment and Renewable Natural Resources classifies the golden mussel as one of the 3 priority invasive species for control, since its overpopulation can cause serious problems for the native fauna. In particular, the golden mussel is common in hydroelectric power plant reservoirs. In these areas, the animal can block the grids, pipes, and heat exchangers, a particularly favored spot where the temperature contributes to the reproduction and growth of the species. Here you have a picture of mussels fixed to the wall of a channel in Brazil. We present a 3D numerical formulation based on the file element method for the mathematical model described in Silva, 2022. Silva and their co-workers presented a numerical model in two dimensions, 2D. Here we present a numerical formulation for this mathematical model in 3D. Our objective is analyze the mussel infestation in a stretch of the Pereira-Barreto channel. That is the second largest artificial freshwater channel in the world, located in Brazil. The mathematical model is composed of 2 advective diffusive reactive equations, partial differential equations, for larvae and algae densities, and 1 diffusive reactive equation for mussel density, coupled with the Navier-Stokes equations, incompressible Navier-Stokes equations. Now, the model is a very complex system of transient, time-dependent, and differential equations. Here we have the mathematical model. We denote by L the density of larvae, and density of mussels, and A, density of algae. Then we have this mathematical model that consists of find L, M, and A, satisfying these 3 equations. The first equation is the equation for the larvae. You have one accumulation term, the diffusive term of the equation, the advective term, and this part is the reactive term. The second equation is the equation for mussels, and the transient term, the advective term. In the mussel equation, you don't have the advective term, and here you have the reactive terms. Finally, the third equation is the equation for algae. algae. In the left-hand side, we have the transient part, the diffusive part of the equation, and the advective part of the equation. On the right-hand side, you have the reactive terms. You have the parameters, the intrinsic growth rate for mussels and for algae, the population carrying capacity, the mortality rate, maturation rate, and half saturation constant. For more details about this model, we can see in this paper. The velocity field present in the adjective terms for the larvae and the algae is obtained from the transient incompressible Navier-Stokes equations. Here you have the first equation, have the moment balance. The second equation is the conservation of mass considering compressible flow. In the third equation, you have this is a boundary condition. Two boundary conditions, and in the final, this one is the initial conditions. Numerical formulation. The 3D domain is partitioned into tetrahedral elements, and we use the FreeFEM software to generate the mesh and obtain the velocity field from the Navier-Stokes equation using the characteristic Galerk method. Here we obtain the velocity field, and then we use in the system of Pdes for larvae, mussels, and algae. For the system of Pdes, we use the finite element method with linear interpolation. A code in MATLAB was developed to solve the system of differential equations. Here, I presented the numerical formulation based on finite element method. This symbol represents the L2, product in term, the usual product in term in L2. The first equation is associated to the larvae, mass, and the second equation, thirdly the algae. The time derivatives is discretized, discretized by the BDF2, two-step backward differential formula, is a second order method. The resulting system of nonlinear equation is solved by a Picard fixed point iteration. Here we present the numerical model. Then we use the finite element method in space, a finite difference in time, and the nonlinear process is solved by the Picard fixed point iteration. And this numerical formulation is nonlinear because we use the SUPG and CAO stabilized method, because this problem is advection dominated. Then the standard finite element method cannot solve this problem correctly, because the finite element method can present numerical oscillations, because the problem is advective dominated. Then you have to use stabilized finite element method. In this case, you use the SUPG and CUA. present the numerical experiment of this approach for the solution of the proposed methodology. Our objective is to evaluate the quality of numerical solution compared
Isaac, where are you? Where are you? I think we have some problems, or Isaac have some problems with the network. Let's wait. Isaac, do you hear me? We don't see your presentation.
I don't see nothing. Come here.
Me too. Isaac,
I don't
where
know
are you?
why. Maybe Isaac have a connection problem.
Yes, I think so. I think we should wait. We have time. We have time. 8 minutes, I think. Very interesting presentation. I think it's classical task, CFD task 2, 3, three equations of diffusivity and I think the system of Navier-Stokes equations.
He left the meeting.
Yes, I think he will update his connection. We shall wait for some time. I think we have Soledad. I think we have 6 minutes left. Yes.
Yes, it's at 6 o'clock. If he join us again, we can continue. If not, you can finish.
Let's wait a little bit.
Okay.
I think it is the last presentation, so
Yes. At 6 o'clock, the day is finished. It's
yes.
finished.
So
we can.
He has 6 minutes.
Yeah, we can wait 6 minutes.
Yes, 6 minutes. It's a bit very interesting presentation. You want to know how the mussels, algae, and other animals and plants distributes in the channel. I think there will be very interesting pictures. Brazil is very far, I think. That is the reason. Anyway, I want to say thank you for all the participants, for presenters. Soledad, thank you for assisting our session. Natalia, thank you for being active with your questions.
Thank you too.
I think we have to give him a chance to finish.
I think that he doesn't join again.
Doesn't not manage, yes. Well, 3 minutes, I think it's useless, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, then. Thank you, everybody. So unexpected ending of our session. But, you know, people are much stronger than all the technologies.
Thank you for the session.
Thank you, Natasha.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Ramoni, the first author of this paper, this work. He was a problem with his internet. So I'm not prepared to presentation at all, but I can show the results so to
Yes,
finish.
you have yes, you have
It's
2
possible.
minutes, please. You're welcome.
Okay,
Please.
okay. Just a moment.
I think we will manage Soledad, maybe.
I think that we can continue by...
Oi, eu vou tentar terminar de apresentar aqui para você, tá? Peraí, depois, tchau.
Sorry?
Sorry. It's Isaac and the phone. Just a minute. Área de trabalho. Abre. Oh, meu Deus, cadê a apresentação? Ai, peraí. ICCSA, ok. Are you sure? Compartilha. And here.
Okay.
Presentation. He stopped in the part that talk about the results. The results is about the 4th month evaluation and of this experiment. The channel in the questions connected 2 rivers, very important in the 2 HPP in São Paulo. This is the region analyzed. It's not the channel all, it's the part. And here we have the map, the mesh. It's this number of nodes and this number of tertiary element. Here the velocity fields obtained about the FreeFan software. So some parameters used in this experiment about the algae larvae and mussels. And here the larvae, density larvae about 4 months. We can see it's very homogeneous, but in this region where the velocity is more, it's high, it's a little concentration about larvae. The mussels is fixed and the wall is in the ground. So here's the densities in these regions. Here, algae, the same way to derive how carregada pela corrente, how to the flow, transport to the flow, we can see these regions, it's more slow concentrations, short concentration in the high velocity. So our conclusion is that these formulations give us to some important visualizations. This is a initial work about this problem. So this is the first way to send this work. We have the most results, and in better results, change some ways to solve this problem. But this initial work show us that this channel, it's have a high concentration of the mussels, so espalha. So you transport the mussels from the one river to the another river. So it's important analyze this region about this grow up because it's a because it's a important way to move, the muscles move. So this is foundations that finance foundations this project. And thank you. Sorry, the internet, the Isaac falls. So thank you for attentions.
Thank you very much for helping, Isaac. It was very interesting to see your result. Sorry, but we have no time for questions, but presentation was very interesting. So again, thank you for everybody. I think our session is finished. Thank you, Solidat, for helping us. See you on the next session.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.